handling objections. So you guys want to take out pen and paper for sure to take mad notes on. I need schedules in, but you guys ready to take some notes? So if we can bring them up properly, please. Round of applause for Dan Anderson. Whoa. This is going crazy.
That's mine. It's on purpose. That's my theme music. Thank you. I've got 3 of them. And if you guys are really, really, really good to me, I will sing the Cutco rap before the night is over. No? Before the night's over. You got to stick around to the end.
All right.
A lot of information to cover, guys. The title of this talk is Handling Objections. And I'm going to give you some very powerful information. This information was stolen from a gentleman named Ken Schmidt, who you will never meet. He is the first Cutco rep ever to move $250,000 worth of blades in 1 year in 1984 in Houston, Texas, because this is a great place to sell knives. $250,000 worth of blades in 1984. If you have any notion of what prices were back then. When I started in 88, a Homemaker Plus 8 was $611, so that'd be like moving 500,000 personally today. So it's a pretty big deal, okay? And I learned from him. He used to be the region manager when I came on board, and this guy could teach some stuff. So I have condensed an hour-and-a-half talk that he gave in 1988 to 30 minutes, all right? So we're going to go for it. That means you're going to get the best stuff, but there's still a lot of stuff that's left out. If you guys want access to the whole hour-and-a-half, check with me later. We'll figure out a way to make that happen, because I still have a recording of that talk he gave in 1988 in my possession. But there's 2 things I'll start with on on all of my talks. And the first is the core component that surrounds everything that I talk about is this critical factor. Once you start with the price presentation, what is this, page 15 in the manual? Am I right? No? Yes? They moved the manual around since I was around. Page 15. Once you start with the price presentation, everything you say after that, from there on out, once you start with the price presentation, you're no longer selling Cutco. It's important what you say. It's important that you know how to say it. It's important that you know how to handle objections and drop down and figure out custom sets and all that. But you're not selling anymore. The demo is the sale. You don't show them knives and then talk them into buying. All you're doing from the moment you mention price is trying to not screw up the sale that you have already made. Because if you have already made the sale, you ain't going to make it on the back end. Because everything we talk about from the moment we say, have you ever had the opportunity to price high quality cutlery, all we talk about is the one reason that exists not to buy Cutco, which is what? It costs money. If it was free, we'd all have it, right? Okay? So I'm not talking about demo tonight. I'm talking about that on Thursday at SC 1. Be there. Okay? But I am going to talk about handling objections. And okay, so the first thing is understanding what you're doing. This is not something where you wrestle the customer to the floor and twist their arm until they buy. It's not where you threaten them with sharp objects to try and get the order. It's not going to work. Okay? You don't know how to high pressure a customer. And by the time you figure it out, you'll have figured out how to be a professional salesperson, and you will never need to high pressure the customer. Okay, second thing I want to say at the start of this talk is this. I'm not going to give you so much in the way of key phrases. I will give a few, as I'm going to teach you what you're trying to do. Because just moving around with you guys tonight, I learned there's a lot of different personalities that work here at Cutco. Now, today I already know it. I should say that was proven to me again when I was talking to you. And the things that I say on my demo and on my close, and when I handle objections, may be something you may or may not be comfortable with yourself. So you need to field train. You need to talk to as many people, as many successful people as possible. Don't be asking the guy that started a week before last. I mean, I know Josh is sharp, and you're sharp, but I wouldn't go home at night and talk to each other. Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? You know who you need to be talking to? Will. Okay? You need to be talking to Tovar. You need to be talking to Mary Lou. Does this make sense? Okay? So make sure you bounce your ideas off somebody that's got more strength than you do, okay, in that area. By the way, nobody ever stops learning. I remember when Matt King's wife, who's a top sales rep, was out riding with me on demos. You know what? I turn around and ride with her the next day because I don't care how much you sold, you can still learn something, okay? But I want you to understand why it's okay to handle objections. I also want to say, by the way, that I don't like handling objections. I don't like confrontation. I don't like to hear the word no. I don't like tense situations. I can't watch an episode of Friends all the way through because Joey is going to say something stupid and I have to leave the room. And my wife would laugh and laugh at me and go, that's not even real. I'm like, I know, that makes it even worse. It's just fun. Somebody's going to embarrass themselves. And I had a 92% closing ratio. That's a pitch for my demo skills talk. My demo is strong. But you still have to be comfortable handling objections. You need to know why you're handling objections. First thing I want you to know is, as Kathy pointed out, objections usually show interest. They usually show interest. Okay? Picture for a moment shopping for a car. You got your money saved up. You know what you want. You go down to the car lot, and you walk past the used cars on the way to the one you want. Is there any interest in the used cars? The beaters? Nope. Do you stop and give the salesman a hard time over the beaters? Because there's no interest. You go to the one that you want. You just shove your money and say, shut up and take my money? Is that how that works? No. You what? You start to beat up the salesman about the car you do want. Because the 11th commandment is, thou shalt give salespeople as much shit as is humanly possible. And I can get away with that because I'm 47 and you're not. Plus, it's a direct quote from Ken Schmidt. If you see the video ever, you wonder why I changed the word. So I didn't change the word. Okay? But think it through. Now, having said that, I would tell you that objections come in two categories. Real and unreal. And the problem is they sound identical. When the customer says to you, that's too much money for knives, is that a real objection? Do they really feel that it's not worth the money? Or are they just saying, can you give me a better deal?
Can you give me a better deal?
I don't know. If your demo sucks, they might be telling you that's too much money for knives. Because it's your demo. Don't mistake. It's your demo. But they say it, and you don't know whether there's no chance of a sale or a high chance of a sale. So the key is you need to be prepared to handle them in a low-key fashion so that if it's unreal and they're just chewing through the process and thinking about it, because, I mean, come on, 1149 is not a small number. In most of the houses that you go into, to buy Cutco is to not buy something else. Am I right? Very few neighborhoods, to buy a set of Cutco is to not change their choices the next day and the day after. By the way, if you get in that neighborhood, stay there. Move into the guest house. Just don't leave, okay? You're good. Y'all with me on this? So does it make sense that 45 minutes ago you got there and now you're talking 11:49? They're going to need a few minutes? Okay? And that's fine. One more thing before I get into the real and the unreal objections and how to handle them. Your customers might know two things about being a customer. Y'all know lots about being salespeople. The longer you stay, the more you learn. I had a conversation with a man named John Berghoff, who, if you stick around long enough, his name will become significant to you over time. And I called him for some tips. And he started talking, and I said, John, I got the basics. I've sold about $75,000 worth of blades already. And he said, Dan, don't take this the wrong way. I learned more after I crossed 300,000 in career sales than I did in my first 300,000 in sales. And so I shut up and took notes on even what I thought was basic. Okay? You'll continue to learn forever. Your customer may know two things about being a customer. They may know one, they may know zero. But if I tell you what those two are, you'll know at least as much as they do. But I can tell you they may know two at the most. And here they are. Number one, don't look too excited. Rain, you've got some experience, right?
Pause.
No, yeah. So who am I? The gal that weren't you here last year? You been around? No. Are you new?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was here
Right.
last summer.
Okay. Have you ever gotten this from a customer for the whole demo and you still made the sale? Just kind of sitting there watching?
No.
Okay. Because it's easy to engage with you. I get that sometimes. Well, you've done a ton of demos. You just maybe they're tired. Maybe they're a low energy person. Maybe they had a bad day and it's all they can do to focus on you. Maybe they're just trying not to look too excited. Okay? Let me phrase this for you a little bit differently, and I'll get into the meat and potatoes on this. I'm a district manager. Years ago, I know what I'm talking about. I know how to sell. I understand what salesmanship looks like. I get a postcard in the mail. Come to our car dealership and see if your 6-digit code matches the 6-digit code on display at the car dealership. And if so, you've won, I don't know, car, cash, something. I don't know. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get what? More people on the floor because more traffic. Just like with you guys, you put it in front of more bodies, you get more sales. So I check the hours. They close at 9 most nights, but one night of the week they close at 6. So 5:55, I'm running through the door of the dealership. The salesmen are coming out. I'm heading in. Nope, no win. I'm headed out the door. And the guy says, hey, you looking for a car? No, as a matter of fact, I'm not. I'm still moving. And he says, but if you were, what would you be looking for? And I'm like, oh, pretty good. I got to respect that. So I turned around. I said, well, I'm not really in the market, but my dad just bought a Jaguar. You might have to be in your 20s or 30s before you get it, but the salesman gets it. If I'm a mature adult and dad just bought a Jaguar, what's on my mind? Being as successful as dad. Does that make sense? So he says, we got one in on a trade-in earlier. Let me show it to you. As we head around the back of the dealership, look, he says, before we get to there, I want to tell you two things. One, one of the tail lights is cracked. It works, but it's cracked. We'll have that fixed before you leave the lot with it. Anybody catch what's going on here? And he said, the other is the glove box latch doesn't work right. We'll have it fixed before you leave with it. So he walks me around, he's telling me all about it. He says, you probably want to know the price. I said, yeah, I was kind of waiting because I'm pretty sure I can't afford it. And he said the number, and I said, that's it? And then I left. Because I had lost all my negotiating power in that moment. And even though I thought the price was a good price, number one, they highball you. Does that make sense, guys? I even if I paid that price, I couldn't have felt good about it because I know I could have got at least a few thousand more off the number. Does that make sense? And I left. So your customer might know, and I'm trained, and I still screwed that one up. They might know, don't look too excited. You with me on that? The other thing they may know, or they may not, don't take the salesman's first offer.
Say that again?
Don't take the salesman's first offer. Back when I started, the biggest thing we had to offer was a Homemaker Plus 8. When I was a professional sales rep, as in feeding my family on demos, not as a manager, on demos, the biggest thing we had was a Homemaker Plus 8. We had a lot of accessories, but the biggest set we had was a Homemaker Plus 8, so that's where we started. So I'm at the guy's house, and he's in sales too, and I knew that, and that's cool. And I'm doing my demo, and I get to the end, blah, blah, Homemaker Plus 8, blah, blah, 5 payments. He says, Dan, let me tell you. He says, you see that stereo over there? He said, I got that thing on payments, and I hate payments. And you see that big screen TV over there? It was back when big screen was new, very expensive. He said, I got that thing on payments. Let me tell you right now, I hate payments. I'm not interested in doing this thing on payments. I'm not gonna do that. What is he really telling me? I buy what I want. That's all he's telling me. So I dropped down to Galley Plus 6 and sold it then. Okay. And the only reason he made me drop down at all, I know for a fact, is because he's in sales. And when I left, if he had bought the first thing I showed him, his wife would have turned to him and said, big boy, you so smart. You bought the first thing that guy showed you. I don't know how you ever make a living doing what you do. He's trying to maintain his pride. Is that acceptable? Yes. He's trying to keep peace in his household. Is that acceptable? Yes. They love the knives, but they love the person they live with more than they love you. They have to live with that person. And I got stories there, but they relate to the demo, not the handling objection. So you've done your demo. You're at the end. You don't know if they mean it when they say that's too much money for knives or they don't. But if you come up with a good way to handle it in a low-key fashion, if it's not real, it'll work. If it's real, it won't work. But if you do it in a low-key fashion, you and the customer can still leave feeling good about each other and still get a lot of referrals. Does that make sense to you guys? So I'm going to teach you a couple of keys on how to handle it. Okay? Now, and this is something that I say all the time, and it's amazing to me how reps do not listen. Absolutely kills me. I'll give a talk and I'll get to the end and say, I'll handle objections. Give me an objection that you've heard more than once. And they go, blah, blah, Dan, well, I had 10 demos last week, 6 bought, 3 almost bought, but then this one guy said this crazy thing. And I go, all right, stop that. I don't want to hear the one guy that said the crazy thing. Because that didn't come up that much, okay? Talk to me about the 3 that almost bought. I can fix those 3. I can turn those into sales fast. I can fix the one guy with the crazy thing. Does that make sense? If I went around the room and asked you to give me your craziest objection, we would have a different answer from all y'all. I ain't trying to answer the crazy ones because some people are crazy. I'm going to try to answer the ones that come up the most. But guys, if we did it out, and had a book of every Cutco objection that's existed in the last 65 years and 3 answers to it, you guys would find out real quick that chivalry is dead. Because if I told you that book was available at the library, as this meeting broke up, the men would step on the women on the way to the door. And the big guys would break the little guys in half on the way to the door if there was just the one copy. Okay? Company's been asking me to write that for years. But right now we're going to focus on the main 3. The big 3. Tell me if this would work most of the time. If we can teach you how to handle too expensive, can't afford it, and not now. If we can give you some skills to handle those, some skills that work most of the time to handle those 3, well, that'd make a difference right there. That'd be the bulk of it in those 3. Okay? Too expensive. The best time to handle any objection is before it comes up. So I want to say that the bulk of handling that is going to go back in your demo, which is why you need to be there on Thursday at SC1 to get the information on demo, because I'm going to talk very explicitly about building up the value and selling sets, because I've only got the 30-minute version, so it's the only 2 things I'm going to have time to talk about. But that's plenty of it right there. Okay? But if you're at the end and they say too expensive, you should still try to handle it in a low-key way. Can't afford it. That doesn't relate as much to your demo. Give you some real solid tips on handling that as well, because sometimes they're just chewing on how to afford it, what they're going to need to give up in order to get it. And then not now. What do you think the turnover is on not now? They tell you they're going to get it, yeah. And what percentage of those turn into sales? 0. I've been doing this 27 years. 1 in 27 years. If you do the math, it's 0.04%. Not 0.4, 0.04%. 2,600 customers, 1 bought later. Okay? Because customers are lying to you? Most of the time when they say later, they're lying to you. 100% of the time they say later, they're lying to themselves. Because it will not happen. You think your best bet's to lunge across the table and call them a liar? As a matter of fact, what's the best way to keep from being disagreeable? Be agreeable. There we go. Genius in the front row. There you go. Be agreeable. Think of it this way. If you say, is this the set you want? And they say, I'll take it. What would you say? All right. And if they say, that's not for me? All right. Okay. Let's define an objection as anything other than, I'll take it. Okay. Just for the purpose of this talk. Yeah. But either way, you're going to go, all right. Too expensive. All right. I can see why you'd say that. They're certainly not cheap. But if you consider the fact that you cook most days of the week, and you only insert hobby of theirs, and by that point of the demo, you should have at least a sense of what some of their hobbies are, right? Use your golf clubs a few times a month, a few months of the year. Considering that you only use your fishing tackle a few times a month, a few months of the year. Considering that you've got that $25,000 Harley Davidson in the garage and you only get out a few times a month, a few months of the year, right? What's the real emphasis here? Hey, you find the money for the things you want, and this is way more practical than some of the other things you bought. And if you're talking about his hobbies, about the time you mentioned the second hobby, she smacks him and goes, yeah, and what did I get? And I say, I think you got knives. Okay, let me back up. Everything we're going to tell the customer is going to be the truth. Not just in the demo, but even when we're handling objections. You ever heard the phrase, you can live with the truth? So we're always going to tell them the truth. You agree? That makes a lot of sense. I've heard that before. Some people have said that to me. But what you find, if you look a little closer, is that sort of a philosophy. Okay, so too expensive. You can bring up the fact, this is one of my favorites, if you've got a husband or wife, and again, you got to be gentle on this. Mr. Smith, I get that. I don't know if this is a traditional household or not, so you tell me. Is Mrs. Smith in charge of making the grocery list, doing the grocery shopping, unpacking it when she gets home, getting it out of the pantry, prepping the dinner, and doing most, if not all, of the dishes? How many times a month do you go out to eat? Nice restaurant, not fast food, nice restaurant, 2-3 times a month. And you tip the waitress 10, 15, 20 bucks? If you just took the money from that for a year, you'd almost be at a homemaker plus $8. And what does the waitress do? Take the order, serve the food, maybe she clears the plates. All right? Put it in perspective. What else are they going to own from now until they die? Right. But what else is in their house that they're going to own until they die? And still be in shape to pass on? Nothing. Okay? Can't afford it. Keep in mind that for most of the households you're in, to buy Cutco is to not buy something else. Do not believe that they can't afford it. Think of the houses that you're in. Think of the houses where you heard the phrase, can't afford it. And let me ask you a simple question. If the refrigerator died as you walked out the door, how long would it be before they had a new refrigerator? Hours. Because if they don't do it within hours, they're going to drop another what? $300, $400, $500 on what? What's on the inside? What's a new refrigerator cost? The low-end models these days are $1,000. Trust me, I know. I've been shopping recently. $2,000 easily. And do they do 12 months same as cash up at Home Depot on a purchase that big? Yeah. Does that have anything to do with the success in the closing ratio on expensive refrigerators at Home Depot? I imagine so. We got the budget plan. Okay? Can't afford it. That makes a lot of sense. I've heard that before. But if we can find a way to get it into the budget, is this something that you'd be interested in? Because you're really trying to smoke out if it's a real objection or not. The phrase, I can't afford it, always means I choose not to afford it. Somebody brought it to me the other day. They said, well, the guy says, he's got the tuition payment due at the end of the summer. I said, okay, great. If you paid your son's tuition at the end of the summer and then found out he had another $1,149 worth of lab fees and student activity fees that you had to pay, would you withdraw him from school or would you find the money? We'd find the money. Great. Let's get this going. And if your son coughs up $1,149 worth of lab fees and student activity fees that you didn't expect at the start of the semester, you let me know. We'll find a way to ship this sucker back and get your money back. I don't start there. That's why I asked them if we could find a way to fit in your budget. Is this something you're interested in? Because that's a low-key way of letting them go, not really.
Isn't that a big direct though? I mean, if you're not really in sync with the customer.
Well, here's the key, and this is what I get a lot of, and I do need to respect the time. I'm getting hand signals here from the back. Keep this in mind. What you're hearing me say is only in the context of me to you in a few minutes. By the time I've got to the end of my demo, there's not much I can't say. Now, understand that as 19 and 20-year-olds, there are things that you could say to your customers that I can't say. But as a 47-year-old, as a peer of theirs, there's things I can say that you can't. So I can be direct. You can be almost as direct. How direct you can be depends a lot on how well you've built rapport and established yourself as a credible expert on what you're doing as you're going through it. Again, that's a demo skills talk for another day. Okay, but I've had people say to me, that was blunt. And I said, did the customer look hurt? No. I said, then it wasn't blunt. It sounded blunt to you because you either weren't there for the whole demo, or even if they were, the rep didn't really understand the dynamic. Okay? So direct can be fine.
The rapport that you're building. Some of you guys have heard me, like, where I have a customer say, oh, I don't know anyone. I'm like, we're not going to play that game. You know, and they just start laughing.
I've got a whole talk on the fact that when they say they don't know anybody, they're totally lying to you. But that's a talk for another day.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a joke. There's no way they can expect you to believe that, because that's just stupid. But it's okay, because they didn't expect you to believe it. It's code. It's like a gal says, I'm washing my hair that night. It's code. It means just don't bother. But anyway, don't get me off track here, Kathy. You're going to cost me. Okay, guys. But my point is this: as a 19 or 20-year-old, if you're in the right neighborhood and somebody says we can't afford it, you can just giggle. You rich people kill me. You can say that, which is almost as direct. I mean, we had a guy, college kid out of Charlotte, Michael Caldwell. I'm still friends with him today. He ended up with a husband alone. It's not really what you want, but that's what he got. The husband, he gets to the end, and he gets the order form filled out. He's got the prices and everything broken down. And the guy says to me, he says, well, that looks cool and all, Michael, but I really am going to have to check with my wife. Now, I'm going to step into Michael. So what you're going to see is Michael Caldwell, order form pin. Say to me, I got to check with my wife.
I gotta check with my wife.
And the guy picked it up and signed it.
That's hilarious.
Because he doesn't have to check with his wife. If the value's high enough, nobody's got to check with anybody about anything. But this is not the talk on the husband and wife tennis match. I got a whole nother talk on that, guys. You give me 30 minutes, I'll explain to you what's going on, because y'all aren't married and you don't know what's going on. I got 24 years in. I know what's going on. I know I learned it real quick. It didn't take me 24 years either. Okay? There's a whole nother dynamic going on there. But that's not tonight's talk. Later. Not now. Dreaded, dirty, nasty. Because it sounds like yes to you. You think that's a yes because it's not a no. On payday, how does it read on your pay statement? Just like a no. Guess what? It's a no. And I'm only going to pick on you because you and I had a conversation earlier. She said to me, well, I showed the wife virtually, and she's going to get with her husband, and then I'm going to do another demo next week. So did I list it on the work report this week because it was a no sale, or next week when it's going to be a sale? I said, do this on the report this week because there is no future demo. You'll never have a chance to show it to her again. Because she's gonna say knives, he's gonna say how much, she's gonna say $11.49, and there's no demo. Okay? There's no demo. Yep.
So say this is a great. I'm going on vacation, Will, right? Whenever I get back, I'm gonna make sure that like they're going on a really expensive vacation. Like I know it's expensive. Like they're
Okay,
out on their
cool.
budget for the month.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
Well, then he's not buying it the day he gets back if he's really going through his budget.
Or not that, yeah.
Guys, if they're sincere about later, offer to hold the order. Offer to hold the order. But you can't give free stuff if you don't get a signature today. You can't. So offer to hold the order. Now, what's going to happen 8 times out of 10? They ain't going to do it. You know why?
Like even
They
if
were
buy
BSing
it,
you.
like that.
Well,
if
we
they
can-
buy it and then they're like, and I'm promising you like a homemaker.
That's different.
That's it now, guys. If you can get an order for something,
I'm
that's
literally
one way to handle
having
that now. Get an order for something. So they can lock in free stuff later.
So I can hook them up whenever they buy it.
You with me on that, guys? But my point is, they're kidding most of the time they say that. They're hoping you won't notice it. If they start to compliment you on your demo, They're hoping that you won't notice that they're not buying, like you're going to not pay attention to that sort of thing. It's crazy. Okay, you can always go for the drop down, small purchase. But guys, the first thing I would do is go for, I'm trying to find out if they're real. I'm not going to waste all my time dropping down if they're lying to me to start with. So I just go, okay, so let's just go ahead and, I call it a post-dated check. When I don't take checks, I'll hold the order. I won't even log it in. Just go ahead and give it to me. I won't even log it in. Date the order form, the date they want it to go in, and that'll be your reminder. Now, as a quick aside, and I have to take an extra 90 seconds because we got there, so I need to point this out. Do not log it in. Don't put it under special instructions. Don't charge the customer just yet because they don't want it until the 15th of next month. Don't log it in. That order form's got to sit. But you know what else? Don't lose it. You know how stupid you'll feel when you pack to go back to school in August and find 2 post-dated orders at the bottom of your desk drawer? Instead, make a game. See how many pay raises you can get before the date on the order. Because it makes it feel like it's worth more. If you think about it long and hard enough, it's not, but it is. It's a good game to play with yourself. And if you think it's reality, it might as well be reality. Okay, so the first thing I said, great, when do you think we can start? I don't know, next year sometime. BS! You don't have to lunge across the table and shout that at them, but it just tells you, okay, we're dealing with something else. Okay? Okay. Why don't we just get you started with something today? So that when you do get around to getting it later, you can get some free stuff. Let's just get you going with just 4 basic knives. You buy the petite carver, trimmer, and spatch spreader. I'll throw in the paring knife for free. I'll even let you choose which paring knife you want. Because there's 5. Started back in the day. We had 1 paring knife, and we were happy about it. Okay, that's the basics. Agree. Tell the truth. Understand that they're usually lying. That does not make them bad people. How many people have ever been on more than 2 dates ever in your life, even if it wasn't the same person? We've already figured out that people are liars. I'm not talking about your date. I'm talking about you. That does not make you a bad person. It makes you a human being trying to negotiate life. You with me? You haven't said that. Don't be lying to the ladies, big man, okay? All right, I heard him say amen back there. All right, guys, have fun, work hard. We'll see you at SC1 if you can make it. And one of these days, you'll have one of these too.
Cool. Give a round of applause. Thank you.